Hi yourself.
They call me Jake.
They call me Margaret.
You want to dance, Margaret?
Love to.
Yeah, that actually aired on primetime network TV, and somehow it's not even close to the weirdest disaster from 1988. 1988 was the year of the Writers Guild strike, and networks scrambled to fill airtime. The result was a lot of questionable shows that probably shouldn't have made it to air. From wannabe sitcoms to half-baked dramas, we're counting down 10 shows from 1988 that stumbled out of the gate. Not all were one-and-done disasters. A few surprisingly limped along for multiple seasons despite rough beginnings, but make no mistake, they all crashed on takeoff, whether they recovered or not. Stick around for number 1 as well, because it turns out that sometimes a complete format overhaul still isn't enough to save a terrible show, and if you want more TV train wrecks, tap like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments which shows we should cover next. Now grab your remote and get comfortable, because we're about to channel surf through 1988's most spectacular TV failures. Number 10. Knightwatch, ABC. Let's kick things off with Knightwatch. Now be honest, did you even remember this show existed? Don't worry, neither did most of America after week 2. The series came and went faster than you could say Thursday night lineup. Premiering on ABC in the fall, Knightwatch had all the ingredients for a breakout hit. Redemption arcs, streetwise action, and a team of reformed gang members now working with the cops to clean up the streets.
You're looking for this guy. Where is he?
It's over there, behind the pigeon coop.
Think Fast and Furious meets an after-school special. The show followed the members of the Knights, a group of ex-gang members inspired by real-life criminal organizations like the Guardian Angels, who used their street smarts to help law enforcement. It tried to be gritty and inspirational at the same time, delivering chase scenes 1 minute and heartfelt speeches about turning your life around the next. So what went wrong? Well, first off, the time slot. Knightwatch was scheduled against rating juggernauts like The Cosby Show and A Different World, a brutal battlefield where even strong shows struggled to survive. Bad timing, bad placement, and bad luck. Ratings tanked fast. Critics described the tone as inconsistent and the message as muddled. ABC marketed it as an original series, but audiences tuning in didn't get a clear sense of what the show wanted to be. Was it a cop drama, an action series, a motivational public service announcement? It ended up feeling like all three, and none of them worked. Only 9 episodes aired before Knightwatch disappeared from the schedule. While it had an intriguing concept and a bit of heart, it simply couldn't survive the chaos of its debut. Number 9, The Van Dyke Show, CBS. Coming in at number 9, it's The Van Dyke Show, a show that had all the makings of a hit and still managed to crash and burn. On paper, it sounded like gold. Legendary comedy icon Dick Van Dyke teaming up with his real-life son Barry in a sitcom about what else? A father and son running a small-town theater. The series debuted on October 26, 1988 and was gone by December 7th. Only 6 of the 10 filmed episodes ever aired.
I am not Scrooge, it's just that there are certain things that have to be done around here.
The rest are likely gathering dust in a CBS storage room filed under, well, we tried. It was meant to be heartwarming, nostalgic, and funny, but critics weren't buying it. Reviews called it stiff, lifeless, and a forced throwback to Dick Van Dyke's earlier, far more beloved series. Audiences agreed as well. Out of 103 shows that season, The Van Dyke Show ranked a dismal 93rd. That's forgotten by the second commercial break territory. The biggest problem was that it leaned too hard on past glory. Viewers expecting the charm and sparkle of the original Dick Van Dyke Show instead got reheated sentimentality with none of the flavor. Even the presence of comedy royalty couldn't save it. In the end, CBS quietly pulled the plug, no big send-off, no second chance. It was a family affair that just didn't connect with families, or anyone, really. Number 8, Probe, ABC. Okay, now this one's a gem. Coming in at number 8 on this list is Probe, the series that was here for a good time, not a long time. Probe premiered on March 7th, 1988, and before you could even finish wrapping your head around the idea, it was gone by May. Just 7 episodes had aired. That's like showing up to a party you were invited to, grabbing 1 slice of pizza, and immediately being asked to leave. Now, here's the kicker. Probe was co-created by legendary sci-fi author Isaac Asimov and TV writer Michael Wagner. A dream team on paper, right? So you'd think this show would be the next big thing, but spoiler alert, it wasn't.
This is a stupid idea. It never happened. You're wasting your time.
The premise followed a hyper-intelligent scientist played by Parker Stevenson who solved crimes using logic, chemistry, and good old-fashioned brain power. Think Sherlock Holmes with a microscope and a fondness for test tubes. So what went wrong? Well, for starters, ABC dumped it into a brutal time slot, practically setting it up to fail. And then there was the tone. One minute it was cerebral and clever, the next it felt like a science experiment gone off the rails. Viewers weren't sure if they were supposed to be intrigued or taking notes. While hardcore sci-fi fans appreciated its intelligence, mainstream audiences were left scratching their heads. There was no explosions, no steamy love triangles, just equations and eccentric monologues. Probe was arguably ahead of its time. In today's streaming world where audiences binge science-y shows by choice, it might have found its niche, but back in 1988, not so much. Cancelled after only 7 episodes, Probe now lives on as a curious footnote in Parker Stevenson's legacy. Number 7, Annie McGuire, CBS. Next up at number 7 is Annie McGuire, a sitcom that should have been a slam dunk but ended up as one of Mary Tyler Moore's most forgettable ventures. CBS hoped to recapture lightning in a bottle by bringing Moore back to primetime in 1988, but what they got instead was a brief awkward stumble into TV obscurity. The premise had potential. Moore played Annie McGuire, a liberal political aide from New Jersey, navigating a newly blended family with her conservative husband.
Annie!
No.
The kid's gone?
Yeah, they're
Good,
gone.
good. Let's not waste any
Nick,
time.
there's a message for you on the machine.
The show paired family tension with political humor, aiming for topicality and warmth. And yes, that was a young Adrian Brody playing one of the stepkids. Unfortunately, the execution didn't match the concept. The tone veered uncomfortably between heavy social themes and flat sitcom banter with no laugh track to guide the audience. It wanted to be smart and heartfelt, but mostly felt scattered and unsure of itself. The cast was solid on paper: Moore, Eileen Heckert, John Rudolph, but the most unfortunate thing was that the chemistry never clicked. And while Moore's narration was meant to be sharp and witty, most viewers weren't sure whether to laugh or start writing their local congressman. CBS aired just 8 of the 11 produced episodes between October and December of 1988 before quietly pulling the plug. Feeling like you've seen enough TV disasters? Well, trust me, we're just getting warmed up. The next failed experiment makes Annie McGuire look like primetime gold. Number 6, Trial and Error, CBS. Now before we get into this, I feel like this sums up 80s sitcom television. But anyway, coming in at number 6 on our list is a show that had big plans, big personalities, and a runtime shorter than your average housefly's lifespan. Trial and Error was CBS's 1988 attempt at a buddy sitcom with a Latino twist, but it stumbled so hard out of the gate, it only managed to air 3 episodes before disappearing without a trace. The show starred Eddie Velez as John Hernandez, a straight-laced lawyer, and Paul Rodriguez as Tony Rivera, his fast-talking roommate who sold t-shirts and chased dreams. The origins of the show were actually a lot more interesting than what aired. It started as The Family Mendez, created by Tommy Chong, about a gang member turned attorney. CBS watered it down, retitled it Amigos, then finally landed on Trial and Error.
You knock back a few beers, you share a good belch, and you ask for more responsibility.
Chong stayed on as a producer, kind of, because according to reports, he barely showed up. And if the premise was shaky, the execution was worse. The comedy missed more than it hid, and critics quickly pointed out that the scripts relied on tired tropes without delivering any real laughs. Even a blink and you miss it cameo from a pre-famed Brad Pitt, his first paid Hollywood gig as a bellboy in episode 2, couldn't save it. Viewers weren't tuning in either. The show premiered on March 15, 1988, and immediately tied for 76th place in the Nielsen ratings. The following week, dead last, 70th out of 70. CBS pulled the plug after just 3 episodes, with 5 more left unaired and collecting dust. Number 5, Superboy, syndicated. And number 5 on our list, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. No, it's a kid wearing a cape and tights. Yeah, we're talking about Superboy, the 1988 TV show that tried to give us more Superman, but with some training wheels. Alright, so I can already hear you saying Superboy doesn't belong on this list because it ran for 4 seasons, but hear me out. We're talking about shows that crashed on takeoff in season 1 of Superboy. Yikes, it was rough. We know the show eventually found its footing and lasted for 4 seasons, so please put your pitchforks away. Anyway, the idea sounded cool. Clark Kent in his college days, figuring out life, love, and laser vision. The problem was the execution, which was, well, not super. John Hames Newton played the title role in season 1, and let's just say, he didn't exactly soar. The reception was so weak that producers replaced him after just one season.
Superboy, my old friend.
You and I were never friends.
Except when you needed something from.
That's like getting kicked off your own origin story. Critics were merciless. The acting was stiff, the writing flatter than Kansas, and the special effects, well, let's just say they made Superman look less like the Man of Steel and more like a guy wearing a Halloween costume he bought on clearance November 1st. One fan reportedly quipped online, "This Superboy needs super help," a line that's stuck around even if its origin is murky. In Season 2, the show hit the reset button. New actor, Gerard Christopher, improved scripts, and slightly better special effects. Despite the bumpy start, Superboy found its audience and managed to fly under the radar for 4 seasons. Number 4, Almost Grown, CBS. Coming in at number 4 on our list is a show that had big dreams, emotional depth, and a whole lot of heart, but vanished before most people even noticed it was there. Almost Grown premiered on CBS in November of 1988 and was basically This Is Us before This Is Us existed. The series followed a couple's relationship as it unfolded over decades, blending nostalgia, drama, and a touch of humor.
No, I'll talk with her. I think it has to do with...
It was ambitious, emotional, and visually unique, but while critics appreciated its thoughtfulness, CBS viewers didn't. At least not so much. Instead of cops, lawyers, or sitcom punchlines, Almost Grown gave audiences quiet reflection and slow-burning storytelling. CBS scheduled it against action-packed hits, which is like putting a poetry reading next to a monster truck rally. Sure, it might be beautiful, but most people are there for the explosions. It was a show that was simply ahead of its time. Ratings never took off, and despite critical praise, CBS pulled the plug after just a few months. Number 3, Raising Miranda, CBS. Coming in at number 3 on our countdown, here's a show that had a family-centric premise and absolutely no staying power. Raising Miranda premiered on CBS in 1988 and vanished almost as quickly after just 9 episodes because CBS had seen enough. The setup sounded promising. James Naughton played Donald Marshak, a widowed contractor in Racine, Wisconsin, suddenly thrust into single fatherhood after the death of his wife. On paper, it was aiming for a warm, heartfelt sitcom in the mold of Full House with a dash of Midwestern charm. But if you blinked, you probably missed it.
She was the one who got me to play the flute. And when I complained that the band was drowning me out.
Raising Miranda struggled right out of the gate. The tone wavered between gentle family drama and lightweight sitcom without ever fully committing to either. The humor was soft, the plots were predictable, and despite the talent involved, the show just didn't resonate. The ratings were rough, and CBS aired the final episode by New Year's Eve of 1988. These days, Raising Miranda is a near total footnote in TV history. No syndication, no DVD release, no nostalgic streaming rediscovery. A forgotten relic of 80s television, gone almost before it arrived. Number 2, The Thorns, ABC. Landing at number 2 on our list is The Thorns, a show that tried to bring dark wit and upscale dysfunction to the family sitcom formula and instead ended up as one of ABC's most forgettable misfires of 1988. The series followed the Thorn family, an upscale, cynical clan living in a Manhattan penthouse. Tony Roberts played Sloane, a smug ad executive, while Kelly Bishop, yes, future Emily Gilmore, played Rose, his sharp-tongued museum curator wife. Their 3 kids were, shall we say, eccentric? It was all tied together with a sarcastic maid and a nosy doorman because apparently no 80s sitcom was complete without quirky side characters.
That was a great French exit, with a smile on the lips.
The Thorns was pitched as edgy and sophisticated. Created by TV legend Alan Burns, co-creator of The Mary Tyler Moore Show, it aimed to be a satirical take on family life, yuppie culture, and upper-crust snark. Unfortunately, viewers weren't laughing. The characters came off as more mean-spirited than witty, and the show's attempts at biting humor often landed like a thud. Critics called it abrasive. Audiences just tuned out. ABC canceled The Thorns after just 8 episodes. It vanished from pop culture with barely a whisper. No reruns, no home video release, not even a cult following. But you can find episodes on YouTube if you search hard enough. Number 1, Tattingers, NBC. Now finally, we've reached the top spot of our list of duds. This show entered the scene like fine dining but left like an old French fry under the seat of your car. Tattingers was NBC's ambitious 1988 drama about a high-end Manhattan restaurant filled with gourmet food, sophisticated conversations, and just the right amount of romantic tension, or So they hoped. The show starred Stephen Collins and Blythe Danner as co-owners of the elegant Tattingers restaurant. Picture white tablecloths, expensive wine, and dramatic moments served between courses. NBC clearly thought they had their next classy hit lined up and gave the show a primetime spot to match. But viewers weren't biting. At least not on the show. Maybe the food, though. The show debuted in October and immediately struggled in the ratings, falling to 82nd place out of 98 shows. That's not just disappointing, that's get it off the menu territory, pun intended. In a last-ditch effort to salvage the brand, NBC did something wild. They rebooted Tattingers as a half-hour sitcom. Yes,
this stodgy old restaurant
Nick, I can't wait for you to see what I've done to the place.
done to the place is about to be shaken up. Nick and Hillary, their marriage was a bust, but their club's a smash.
the same characters. Yes, the same restaurant, but now with punchlines, because that's what we wanted. Unsurprisingly, that version also flopped. The audience didn't know whether they were supposed to laugh, cry, or order the duck. Both versions were quickly canceled, and Tattingers faded into TV history as a confusing blend of drama and comedy that never quite figured out its flavor. It's a reminder that even with the finest ingredients, a show still needs the right recipe to succeed. And there you have it, 10 shows from 1988 that had rough starts and even rougher endings for some. Which of these forgotten flops do you actually remember watching, and which ones did we miss? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this trip through 1988's television time capsule, hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss the next batch of classic TV treasures. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.